Alright, so this video is coming out a day later than I wanted it to. But considering what happens in this episode, I really wanted to just sit and breathe with that because oh my god, did they make just all sorts of big ramification stuff that I think will probably impact season 3. Um, but let's just dive into this. Of course, my name is Daniel Strong. This is QuickTime Reactions. Um, and I didn't even mention in a little intro that once again, for the last time, don't skip the intro. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Don't skip the intro. Um, but we are here. It is the finale for X-Men 97 Season 2. Don't know why that this is season's 9 episodes when last season was 10, but whatever. Season 2, Episode 9, which is entitled Survival of the Fittest. This episode was written by Brian Ford Sullivan, and the episode was once again directed by both Chase Connolly and Emmett Yanamura. The sides are now set. X-Corp / the X-Men are trying to keep Gambit alive and somehow try to remove Apocalypse from him. But on the other side, you have X-Factor and X-Force, who have teamed up to try and kill Gambit to try and get rid of Apocalypse inside of him. So, question is, which side wins? So, another reason why I wanted to sit with this for a day is because I've already seen the discourse run amok about this episode. And some people like it, some people don't. And that's just the nature of the world that we live in. Actually, I even saw a title in that a IGN article was put out saying that the finale had no way it tied into the rest of the season. Well, I'm here to argue the opposite case. But let's go ahead and talk about what happened in this episode. So, of course, X-Force and X-Factor are going towards where X-Corp is located, which is on Genosha, to try and get rid of Gambit. Meanwhile, while a whole bunch of people for the X-Men, Polaris, Bishop, Sunspot, Jubilee, Jean, Cyclops, Morph, Wolverine, Forge, Storm, all of those guys, and of course Charles, they're at X Corp awaiting this, upcoming, well, shall we call it, siege, to try and get Gambit. Rogue, Nightcrawler, and Beast end up going to where Ship is located. Now, of course, you may be wondering, how is Ship there when we saw Ship earlier this season? Well, remind you, this is that time that we saw Ship early in the season. That was way in the future and also way in the past. But here in the 90s, after, if you remember back to the original series, and I have to thank New Rockstars for providing this information in their breakdown video. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known this. But after the X-Men had at least subdued Apocalypse for the time being, Ship was cast adrift and crashed into the ocean. But they are able to find Ship, and they're able to get aboard. And of course, Beast and Ship are cordial, like they were both at the beginning of this season and also in the original run of the show. And so they're trying to find a way to beat Apocalypse, just to try and stop this from happening. But ship can only offer, one thing, and that is to go into the exact same. I'm going to call it a chamber. I can't remember the exact term that they called for it, but it's the same thing that En Sabanur went into to basically become Apocalypse. Um, and so Rogue, out of her love for Remy, decides to go into there, and she is confronted by Eson the Searcher. Now, if you remind yourself, Eson was the Celestial that we saw in the first Guardians film, who had the Power Stone in his staff and basically destroyed the planet. I believe that was Eson. And of course, while I'm doing this review, it is raining. Even nature is sad by what happened at the end of this episode. Um, but yeah, Rogue is confronted by Eson, and Eson basically spells out. I'm paraphrasing here when I say this, but Eson's like, "Hey, you just have to let Apocalypse do what he does, because he is going to create a wholly better future. Only the strong survive, hence the title Survival of the Fittest. Um, only the strong will survive, therefore forging a much better world due to all of the weak being culled." And of course, Rogue is not all about that and also wants to save Remy. So Eson provides a solution: sacrifice. If she goes and does this and destroys Apocalypse, then a sacrifice needs to be made. And she says, for Remy, I'd give anything. And she is endowed with celestial powers, which this rogue look plus the Watcher infused looks that happen in What If Season 3, I need cosplays of those immediately because those were awesome. And this was awesome. Um, Rogue and Nightcrawler have a nice little moment. But then, of course, we cut back to X Corp, and hell is breaking loose. There is people controlling Sentinels. Um, of course, X Force are trying to break into the building. Strongman eventually does with the help of Siren, providing some additional energy as well. I think the name Havoc, I think that was his name, Havoc, is chasing Jubilee in the oh my god, what is the name of the ship? In the X Jet. I think that's the name of the ship. I'm trying to remember the actual name of the ship, but all I can think of is the X Jet, even though I don't think that is the proper name. Um, and of course, we have the troops inside waiting for um, basically for the fight. We have a really cool fight between Morph and Wolverine with Psylocke and Archangel. With Morph actually turning into Wolverine to bait Psylocke and Archangel for a moment before the actual Wolverine shows up. Um, Polaris and Bishop are basically guarding the entrance to where Gambit is being held. Um, Jubilee is actually able to outmaneuver Havoc and actually crash him in his jet and actually able to fly away. Um, and of course, things get serious when Cable shows up, because Cable comes in and just starts wrecking shop. Siren and Multiple Man are able to get to where Gambit is located, and eventually, with some help from Strongman, are able to able to subdue Polaris and Bishop for a little bit until Remy LeBeau wakes up. Gambit is officially back and doing things that, we love Gambit doing, tossing around those cards. As Channing Tatum said in Deadpool and Wolverine, tossing the cards and making them go boom. Um, and of course, he's, you know, doing, his Gambit thing. But of course, Cable is there. But before Cable can get to him, he does have to deal with um, Jean and Scott, his parents. Um, and Cable is actually able to remove Cyclops's shades that prevent him from, like, his optic blast being controlled to basically being out of control. Um, and is able to subdue Jean and is able to get to Gambit and actually shoot him. And so you think it's all done, but it is all done in a different aspect because Apocalypse has now fully taken over Gambit. And you know what I said earlier about the Celestial Rogue needing to be cosplayed? This mashup of Gambit and Apocalypse, this also needs to be cosplayed as well. Um, and so, you know, Apocalypse Gambit has now basically fully taken control. He wipes out the entire X-Men and actually gets all of them under his control. And Apocalypse is just taunting Charles, like, finally the teacher gets to learn the lesson that those that you hold closest to you are a weakness to you. And Charles is like, no, the ones that we have closest to us are our greatest strength, which is when Rogue comes in, basically wipes out the X-Men, reverting them back to their normal selves. And this time, when Rogue touches Gambit on the cheek, on the face, um, it does work. It takes out Apocalypse. She actually puts him into like a nice little gem and gives it to Cable. And of course, Remy is also back as well. And then you see the celestial armor that Rogue was wearing dissipate. And Remy's like, well, what's going on? And Rogue says, well, in order to save you, there needs to be a sacrifice. And Rogue sees Beast holding a Bible because Nightcrawler, Kurt Wagner, went into the chamber that made and summoner Apocalypse. And Ison's like, why are you here to stop this sacrifice that she wanted to have happen? And Kurt's like, I'm not here to stop it. I'm here to complete it. And Ison's like, you are willing to take her place? And Kurt's like, yeah, I am. They're going to mourn me for a little bit, but they're going to move forward. And they're going to inspire so many people. And they're going to do the right thing. And they're going to save so many lives because of who they are as people. And Isan says, how can you be certain that all of this life, that your death will create all of this life? And Nightcrawler plainly puts it, because I have faith. And that's where the episode ends off. Now, the way that this ties in to the entire season, go back to, because they spelled it out in the previously on section. I would dare say in, I believe, last week's episode as well, with the chat that Rogue and Ensabanur had at the fire. Ensabanur said love is a weakness, while Rogue said, yeah, love is the only thing worth living for. And look at all the times that happened with Ensabanur Apocalypse. Abandoned by his mom, and watched the one person that actually cared for him die. The one person that actually took a liking to him took some of his power. He has been scorned so many times by love that he basically now relies on strength. Whereas look what happens with the X-Men. When they try to go for strength, it does not work out in their favor. Look at what happened with Charles in episode, I believe, 6? Yes, in 6. Basically creating danger because he wanted to be stronger to prevent Magneto's death. He created a threat. Look at episode 5 with Wolverine wanting to get his adamantium claws because he wanted to be stronger. And look at what happens, with, everybody else that, seeks strength. They ended up falling. But if they relied on love, much like Rogue did in this episode, she did not go in, that chamber seeking power. She went in there because she loved Remy. And that's what eventually, led her to be able to do that. And Kurt did what he did because he loved everybody else and had faith that they would be able to get out of it. So this last episode ties into stuff that they had been setting up ever since like the beginning of the season. So, that's just, my little rant about this. But we are not done because there is a post-credit scene to talk about. Val Cooper is in her office looking at some files while on the TV you hear that President Kelly has conceded the race and that Graydon Creed is going to be the next president, which that's going to be a little bit of a problem for the X-Men, but even bigger problem is Cooper is looking at Mystique's folder. Until then, she realizes that another Val Cooper walks into her office, and of course, the imposter Val Cooper shoots the real Val Cooper, and of course, reveals her to be Mystique. And ends up, my assumption is, killing the real Val Cooper and ends up taking, her place, essentially. So, season 3, we're going to be dealing with Mystique quite a bit. And that has me very, very excited. Overall, I really enjoyed season 2. Do I think it was on the level of season 1? No, I don't think so. But at the same time, I really didn't expect this season to meet the level of season 1 because season 1 was basically a reintroduction to these characters, and they knew they had to be absolutely pitch perfect on it. Otherwise, it could crumble. Here, they didn't really need to because I think they had already confirmed season 2. They are going to be making a season 3, which has me very, very excited, like I said. And let's not, kid ourselves here. There were some really good moments in this season. Rise of Apocalypse Part 1 and 2, that was really good. Nightcrawler's episode, that was really good. This finale, really, really good as well. And just continuing like really good character moments throughout the entirety of the season. So, yes, I do think that this might be a step down from season 1, but I still think this season produced some really quality stuff. So I'm very much looking forward to season 3 whenever that decides to come out. Um, but what did you guys think of this season? What did you guys think of this finale? Let me know down in the comments below. But just like that, X-Men 97 is now completed. The next superhero show that we're going to be talking about is, I believe, Lanterns will be coming out relatively soonish. So we're going to be talking about that probably in the next couple of days. Also, be prepared for a swathe of movie reviews. I'm going to see a couple tomorrow and then 3 on Saturday. So it's going to be a lot. So be sure to be staying tuned into the channel. But that's going to be pretty much it for me on this one, guys. Be safe out there and always have faith in family or your friends because you never know. They could do some extraordinary things. I'll catch you guys next time.